Historic Saratoga is in readiness for the start of its second century, following the national celebration of its centennial in 1963. Its famous old stands are ready for new generations of spectators, and it's tracked for new champions to follow in the footsteps of such as Man o' War, 20 Grand, Whirlaway, and Native Dancer. As usual, 4 stakes stand out in the star-studded program, each highlighting a Saturday of the sport. Early arrivals select their seats, and at the clubhouse entrance, the cars begin to arrive for the first of 4, the Whitney. The tree-shaded paddock, and champion jockey, Walter Blum. Jack Dreyfus, Bill Boland, and Alan Jerkins, Sunstruck's crew. The crowd watches as Walter Blum is tossed up on Gunbow by trainer Eddie Neloy, one of racing's fine combinations. The Maryland campaigner Mongo under Wayne Chambers leaves the paddock. Gunbow and Blum head for the track destined to show the crowd what makes this horse one of the year's great. The Whitney Parade led by the Outriders in their hunting pink. Number 1 is Hobo Farm's Sunstruck, ridden by veteran Bill Boland, who handled Bo Purple and trained by Alan Jerkins. Next is number 2, Montpelier's Mongo, one of America's best, owned by Mrs. Marion DuPont Scott, trained by Downey Bonsall, regarded as Gunbow's chief rival, Wayne Chambers up. Number 3 is Mrs. Ada L. Rice's stakes winner, Delta Judge, trained by Clyde Trout and ridden by one of the country's top jockeys, John L. Rotz. Then, rounding out the small but select field, here is number 4, Gunbow, nicknamed the fastest gun in the West, and soon to prove it, saddled by Neloy, ridden by Blum. The grooms, like the trainers, can only wait now, ready with shanks, coolers, and tack buckets for them to come back. The start for the mile and an eighth Whitney is right in front of the stands. Mongo is off in front, followed by Sunstruck. Gunbow is last, but only for a short while. At the end of the first quarter mile, he took the lead with daylight showing between him and the second horse. It was in this race that Gunbow served notice. He was to be reckoned with for top honors in the year. By the time the quarter pole had been reached, he was in full command, and from that point on, he simply walked away from the field. An indication of how he was that day lies in the fact that so good a horse as Mongo was 10 lengths behind in second place at the finish. Later that same day, a syndicate was to be announced, which would make Gunbow a $1 million horse. He maintained a brilliant pace to the close of the season. Gunbow's owners are on hand to greet their winner as Blum brings him back to the winner's circle. Blum heaves his bat to the valet before dismounting and is greeted by Harry Albert, one of the owners. As trainer Eddie Neloy arrives to greet his winners, Blum climbs down from the saddle. Shortly, they are to accept trophies. Gunbow heads back to his barn, the job well done. Former ambassador John Hay Whitney, the race named for his grandfather, makes presentation to Mr. and Mrs. Albert, Mrs. John Stanley, Neloy, and Blum. And now the Alabama, Denny Phipps and his father, Jockey Club Chairman Ogden Phipps. Green Tree trainer John Gaver and jockey Rotz. Canadian sportsman E.P. Taylor in the paddock. And Kentucky Derby's Wathen Naval Camp. Racing people from across the country are drawn to Saratoga each year. Maniacaza and Beautiful Day. Rallyo Baeza and Castle Forbes. The Phipps 1 and 1A entry. And the favorite number 7, Miss Cavendish under jockey Howard Grant, head for the track. The Alabama is an ancient filly race for 3-year-olds. This was its 84th running, and it's a good field. It has been won by such great ones in the past as Busanda, Kiss Me Kate, and Primonetta. Today's favorite and high weight at 124 pounds is the stretch-running Miss Cavandish. And now for the call of the race, Fred Capossella.
They're off. That's Silwall going to the front. Beautiful Day second. Petite Rouge third. Castle Forbes, Time for Bed. Sweet Witch Sabemar, and Miss Cavandish is 8th. By the stand that way with Beautiful Day and Silwall battling for the lead. Petite Rouge 3rd. Castle Forbes 4th. Time for Bed 5th. Sweet Witch 6th. Sabemar 7th. And Miss Cavendish is 8th. They swing around the clubhouse turn that way with Beautiful Day and Silwall still battling for the lead. Petite Rouge 3rd. Castle Forbes 4th. Time for Bed 5th. Sabemar 6th with Sweet Wish and Miss Cavendish far back in 8th position. They go into the backstretch that way with Silwall getting the lead. Beautiful Day maintaining 2nd position. Petite Rouge 3rd and forcing the pace. After that it's Castle Forbes, Time for Bed, Sabemar, Sweet Witch, and Miss Cavendish. They continue along the backstretch that way with Silwall showing the way by 2 lengths. Beautiful Day holding on to 2nd position. Petite Rouge 3rd. Castle Forbes 4th. Time for Bed 5th. Sweet Witch and Sabemar. They go toward the far turn that way with Silwall still in front by 2.5 lengths. Beautiful Day 2nd. Petite Rouge 3rd. Castle Forbes 4th. Time for Bed 5th. And Miss Cavendish beginning to move on the outside 6th. Sweet Witch 7th. And Sabemar is 8th. They swing around the far turn that way with Silwall still in front by a length as Beautiful Day begins the challenge. Battling for the lead, and Castle Forbes coming on 3rd with Petite Rouge 4th and Miss Cavendish. Coming toward the top of the stretch, that's Beautiful Day now, and Silwall still battling for the lead. Castle Forbes coming up, and Miss Cavendish on the outside. Coming into the stretch with a quarter of a mile to go, it's Beautiful Day getting the lead with Silwall, Castle Forbes, and Miss Cavendish moving up fast on the outside. Coming to the 8th pole, it's Beautiful Day still in front, but Miss Cavendish moves alongside, whipping and driving and challenging. It's Miss Cavendish on the outside getting the lead. And as they go over the finish line, it's Miss Cavendish the winner by 2 lengths. Beautiful Day 2nd, Castle Forbes 3rd, and Silwall is 4th.
Miss Cavendish steps into the winner's circle, having earned the right for this final touch with her terrific finish. Howard Grant grins at the crowd, and another happy man, owner Harry S. Nichols, greets him as he climbs down from the mount. Young trainer Roger Lauren has done a fine job with Miss Cavendish. He's a 2nd-generation trainer, the son of Lucy and Lauren. The spoils of victory. In this race, as in many others in New York, there are prizes for the rider and trainer as well as the owner. Mrs. C.V. Whitney makes presentation to owner Nichols. Mrs. Whitney's husband races in the original blue and brown Whitney colors. Next, the ancient Travers. Veteran trainer of Hillrise, Bill Finnegan, enters the paddock. He is followed by jockey Donald Pierce and owner Californian George Pope. Trainer Elliot Birch with Quadrangle's jockey Manny Icaza. John W. Haynes talking with Leslie Combs. At the right, owner Paul Mellon, Icaza and Birch, Quadrangle's team. Young Eugene Morey of Hialeah. The wretched weather failed to keep racing figures from braving the mud of the paddock to gain a close-up of the famous starters. Rain most of the night before this 95th Travers and during the morning of the race left the track looking more like a shallow river than a racing surface. On the way to the post are number 1, King Ranch's Portfolio, trained by the Dean of American Trainers, Max Hirsch, with Johnny Rotz riding. Number 2 was the California Hillrise, owned by El Paco Ranch, who ran such game races in the Triple Crown. Bill Finnegan saddled him and Donald Pierce rode. Number 3 is from William DuPont's Foxcatcher Farms, the outsider in the field, Raymont, trained by Eddie Christmas and ridden by Bill Boland. Number 4 is the Belmont winner, Paul Mellon's Quadrangle, trained by Elliot Birch with Manny Icaza in the saddle. And finally, number 5, Mrs. Henry Ober's Nightly Manner, trained by Ken Field, ridden by Howard Grant. It was a small but interesting field. The weather was the same as it had been in 1930, when Jim Dandy had 100